Welcome to the Balance of Cinema podcast, where we discuss the very best, the very worst, and everything in between in this wonderful world of movies. My name is Steven, and this is my co-host Michael.
I'm Michael.
And unfortunately, Todd still cannot join us. He is still stuck in that Siberian prison. I can give you no updates because last episode was picked up on by the people in the prison. And so now they're listening to this podcast. And I kind of hope that everyone in the prison of those YouTube accounts also listens to the podcast and gives us a thumbs up and comments.
Damn Siberians.
Now, this idea came from the fact that both me and Michael are both mutually huge Resident Evil fans. That was like one of the when like we kind of became friends back in the Xbox 360 days. Like some of the main things we would talk about is movies in general, but like View Askew and Resident Evil were like the two big things that we were both like fans of. And then eventually you got back into wrestling for a little bit, and that was fun too.
Yeah, you actually got me back into wrestling for a little bit. And now I'm so far out of it, I don't even know what's going on in
You
it.
probably don't even know that WWE and TNA are like buddies right now.
They are?
Yeah. It's literally a WWE wrestler that's a TNA champion right now.
Nice.
Well, NXT, the other, sometimes it's the developmental brand, but when it does good, they pretend it's a third brand. I could bitch about wrestling for hours. It's how you know you're a huge wrestling fan when you can bitch about it for hours.
Yeah.
I love it so much. But like I said, we're both big Resident Evil fans. Both big fans of the games. Michael's probably a bigger one than me, but I'm no slouch myself. I've played all the mainline ones, although as I told Michael earlier, I still have yet to play the original PlayStation 1 game. And what kind of started your love of Resident Evil?
So growing up, I was a Nintendo kid. Like, I had the original NES, Super NES, Nintendo 64. Never, strayed. I think I had a Sega at one point. But a friend of mine had a PlayStation. And kept telling me how good the games are. Like, they're more, realistic and, adulting, I guess. But, so he ended up bringing over his PlayStation one day, and he brought Resident Evil 2 with him. I'd never heard of Resident Evil, never played it. And I remember we stayed up late one night playing. I was playing Resident Evil 2, and we were both just screaming, jumping, getting terrified. I remember there's a scene where you're running through a hallway with Leon, and birds bust through the window, and it scared the ever living shit out of me to where I yelled so loud my parents fussed at me. So that was kind of like my gateway drug. I ended up buying a PlayStation, getting the first and second Resident Evil, and that was it. I never looked back.
For me, it was my stepdad had a PlayStation, and so every now and then I would see him play games. So like Silent Hill, Metal Gear Solid were like the big ones. And then I only saw him play it for a little bit. He played the Resident Evil 2, and I was just amazed that oh my god, you're in the city and you run around and the zombies can get you. And it's really funny because you're in the city for 2 minutes. Before you're stuck in a police station for the rest of the game.
Police station for 4 hours.
Yeah, I just remember being so amazed by it. At the time, I was saying, you grew up like Nintendo or Sega. You have a very specific viewpoint in games, and then you play something like Resident Evil, and you're just like, oh my god, look at how intense and realistic everything looks.
Right. And before that, I never would imagine a video game could be scary.
Yeah. And then you go back, and you're like, wow, their mouths don't even move when they talk. They don't walk like humans. They don't sound like humans. It's like
they don't even have hands. They just have cubes.
From there, because I was a kid and I had parents that were like, oh, you can't play M-rated games. So for a long time, Resident Evil was always that cool thing that it couldn't quite grasp. So occasionally I would play Resident Evil Outbreak. I would rent that from Blockbuster when I got older. I think Resident Evil 4 was the first Resident Evil game I played through all the way, and then I got 2 after that.
Nice.
And then from there, I would just play them as they came out. And
it's funny because 4 was the one that kind of changed the game. That was the one that was very, very different, but probably sold the most. So they never went back to the old ways, sadly.
I mean, like if you want to play 4, just pick a console. They'll have 4 out
It's on there, I guarantee you.
there. um,
It's probably on the fucking KFC console at this point.
4 will always be my favorite. It really it struck the balance of like being like really scary and also like having like good action. And for a while, Resident Evil Capcom seemed to be like, oh yeah, they like the action, and they just ramped it up for 5 and 6.
Yeah.
To the point to where they basically had to make a whole new game for 7 to get it back to like that crowd.
But it's cool to see how they've kind of evolved because like 1, 2, and 3 and Code Veronica, arguably, Code Veronica was a little different, but they were a certain type of game. And then 4, 5, and 6 happened, and they were a different kind of game. And now 7 and 8 are kind of in its own little genre. So I don't know. It's kind of cool to see how the video games have evolved over the years.
Yeah, and it really seems like this franchise is here to stay. As like not only were 7 and 8 like pretty successful, but like the remakes of 2 and 3 are really successful too.
It was heartbreaking.
Yeah. I actually I really like the second remake. It does like make some changes that annoy me. 3 I liked 3 at first, and then I played Resident Evil like 3 for the PlayStation 1. I was like, holy shit, they cut out so many things.
So much. Yeah, the remake is shorter than the original. And like that should never be the case. Like when they remade the first one, like I told you earlier, I could speed run the first game in under an hour. The remake, no possible way. Like that game is long as hell. So in 2 is probably my favorite just because it's the first one I played, but 3 is probably like up there, the original. So I was
Yeah.
so excited to get the remake, and then when I paid like $80 for like the collector's edition, and then I'm so excited to play it, and the night I start playing it, I beat it, and I was like, "What? That's it? It's over?" Like my favorite part of the original was the clock tower segment. No, that's not in the game.
Yeah. And they took out the worm.
Yeah, there's no worm. You don't go through a graveyard. It's so short.
And it sucks too because like the cutscenes of 3 are great. And like kind of like the extra characterization you get from everybody. Playing the remake, playing the original is like because I like Carlos a lot in the remake. So when playing the original, I'm like, okay, Carlos is still cool.
Yeah, he's still cool.
I actually like Nikolai more in the remake because he's like a bit more like shadier.
Yeah,
Well, in 3, he just kind of seems more selfish. But like the gameplay wise, it's like yeah, 3's like there's so much more content and there's so much more things you could do in 3. Like even like how the Nemesis stuff is in 3 is like very much like better implemented.
yeah.
Where like in 3, you're like, okay, he's coming, he's coming right here. But like in the original, it's like, oh my fuck, no, Nemesis, god damn it.
Yeah, the remake for 2 was much better.
Yeah. And personally, maybe controversial, I love the remake of 4.
Yeah, it was good. I don't think it needed a remake, but I still enjoyed it.
It was cool to have like a more modern control scheme. Like I like the fact you can self-kill people and stuff like that. I also
Yeah.
liked how like 2 and 3 really toned down the cheesiness. They wanted to be a bit more serious.
Yeah. Which that took a lot for them to do that in 2, because I love 2, but that game was cheesy as hell.
They removed like a lot of like the classic lines, and it's like, no, keep those in there. The new people aren't gonna care.
Right.
A little bit later, I'm going to bring up a line from Resident Evil 2 that I wish was actually in the movie we're talking about. But 4, I like that the remake of 4 kind of brought back the cheesiness. I think because the actor that played Leon is a fan of the original 4, so he's probably like, I want to say these goddamn lines.
Right. And the line, like my favorite line in the original 4, and I'm so glad they kept it in the remake, because where's everybody going? Bingo?
Yeah, as you can kind of tell from our discussion here, we fucking love these games so much. So when they translated to movies,
With Mila Jovovich.
even before that, did you listen to the documentary that came out recently about George A. Romero's version of Resident Evil?
Oh, I forgot about that. I remember I saw the trailer and I wanted to watch it. Is it actually out?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah, it's
on
been
a
out.
streaming service?
To pay for, sadly, not to just stream. I hate when
Yeah,
that
definitely
happens. It's like I pay for the streaming service. Don't make me pay for movies.
Right. No, I definitely want to watch that. I forgot about it. I forgot it existed until just now.
But yeah, it is a pretty good documentary, especially if you're not familiar with like kind of the history of like him making the movie. It also it's kind of a bummer because I actually have a lot of notes about the documentary, but since you didn't watch it, I won't spoil it for you.
Thanks.
um, it gives you like a lot of cool information. It kind of talks about Sweet Home, which was like a Japanese movie that turned into a game that like the making of that game like left like such a desire in like people in Capcom that like they're like we want to make like another like game like Sweet Home that eventually turned into Resident Evil.
That's
Tells you
awesome.
about that. It gives you like a pretty good like backstory of like who George A. Romero is and why he's important to the zombie genre. Although if you're like me and Michael, you're probably gonna watch this and you're like, yeah, I know about this stuff. Get to the new stuff already.
Right. I think I mentioned to you in the last episode where we're talking about Dogma that like my intro to Kevin Smith was Jay and Bob Strike Back. We actually watched that after the first movie came out, and me and a group of friends went and saw it, and we were all so excited to see this fucking movie of Resident Evil. And all I wanted to see is like the characters I knew and loved on the game be on the big screen, and I didn't get any of it. I got
Yeah,
Alice, who's not in any of the fucking games, and a bunch of other people who's not in any of the fucking games. But you get a liquor, so that was cool, I guess.
for a little bit until it turns into something
Yeah,
else.
for a little bit, and then at the end they say Nemesis, and you're like, "Oh shit, I know that character." But other than that, yeah,
After the George Romero thing kind of like panned out, which it's very frustrating because it seemed like he tried to like it wasn't going to be like super accurate to the games. Like Chris was going to be like a farmer he was dating Jill, and then he finds out, "What, Jill? You're a member of Stars? Oh, I guess we're going to this mansion now." Um, there was some changes, but like they threw out the scripts, and I'm going to bring up this production company because they're going to come up again by the end of the podcast. Constantine Films. I probably said their name wrong. They're probably most famous for producing the Never Ending Story movies.
da 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 da.
And they produced a movie of Roger Corman. They were tasked with making a movie about a famous Marvel property. Can you guess what movie it was?
A famous what?
Marvel property. Roger Corman, famous Marvel property. And then they made the movie with no intent of releasing it.
Oh, Fantastic Four. I actually met the guy who played the Thing in the original that version of the Fantastic Four.
Oh wow.
I can't remember his name, but we like sat and talked for a while. It was really cool.
that must I feel bad for those actors because like they thought the movie was actually coming out.
Oh yeah, he was talking about that. He was like they all like put so much work into that. Like they were acting their ass off
Yeah.
and never saw the light of day. Well, I mean it does now. You can find it now to watch, but
They won't tell you how to watch it, but it's very easy. Same thing with Sweet Home, the original Japanese movie that is kind of what Resident Evil became. That's actually very easy to watch too, because that only had a Laserdisc release in 1990. And
Golly.
so like someone got like the Japanese Laserdisc and like cleaned it up and then like spent years like doing like subtitles and stuff on it. I haven't seen it yet, but it's that's on YouTube and that's really the only way to watch it, so I don't feel bad in saying that.
I just looked it up.
Back to Constantine Films. Constant yeah, I don't know. It's not spelled like Constantine. I'm
That's
an
Sean
American.
an
I'm an
asshole.
American. I only know how to say American stuff.
In
um,
America, we speak American.
but yeah, they got the rights to Resident Evil, and they tried to do the George A. Romero thing. That didn't work out. They seem to not know what they're doing, as we'll kind of figure out when we talk about Welcome to Raccoon City. But eventually, yeah, that became the Mila Jovovich movies, and like Michael said, you're not getting Resident Evil stuff in that movie other than zombies and then one liquor.
The sequels give you a little bit more, but still, it's just I don't know. They were all kind of like
In preparation for this podcast, I actually did watch all 6 of those movies. I kind of regret my choices. I'm not a big fan of those movies. But yeah, you get little nuggets here every now and then and be like, "Oh my god, Jill's in this movie. Oh my god, Leon's in this movie," and he's played by an actor that doesn't even sound like he could speak English as a first language. They have Kevin Durant playing Barry and give him barely anything to do. The 2 standouts from those movies, I will say though, are the Nemesis costume from 2, because it's completely practical and it actually looks pretty good.
oh yeah, Nemesis looked awesome in the second. The second movie is probably my favorite one.
Yeah, and then because it's practical, he can like run around and stuff, and it's like, and he can fight, and it's like, wow, we're probably never going to get a Nemesis that looks that good ever.
I think he only says that like what once.
Yeah, because stars aren't a big because
Yeah,
a big fault of that of those movies are they're not really trying to be in tone with the games.
yeah,
So him killing stars is just him killing some random people that he comes across.
right.
Um, but yeah, he looks really good. And then the guy who plays Wesker, I thought he did a great job playing Wesker. He plays more of Wesker from the fifth game, where Wesker is like this megalomaniac villain. But like the performance he's going for and the voice he's going for, he very much does seem like he wants to like he's trying as hard as he can to emulate Wesker. Sadly, after the fifth movie, he basically gets reduced to being on a screen in the sixth movie, and then the seventh movie, he's basically just a lackey.
Yeah.
And
Which,
he
to be
dies.
fair, Wesker is kind of a lackey.
And then he dies because his foot gets stuck on a door, and then he gets blown up. There's fun to be had with those movies, but if you want like the Resident Evil experience, you're not really going to get it from there. Uh, you might get frustrated, to be honest. And then like they throw in like a lot of characters from later games, and the whole time you're just like, I just want to see a hunter. I want to see the zombie sharks.
Right?
That's one funny thing about Resident Evil. There's like a ton of zombie animals.
Sharks, alligators, snakes, a worm.
I actually asked a friend of mine that's not familiar with Resident Evil. I said like, hey, I bet you can't guess what the first Resident Evil boss was. And she gave up, and I was like, it's a giant snake.
Yep. Makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
In the first and second game, both games, there's a snake, a giant snake.
Yeah.
Neither game does it make sense why you're fighting a giant snake.
I think it's actually an alligator in the second game.
Okay, that's what I'm. Okay, yes, right. The alligator kind of makes sense because, like, they're in the sewer. You're like, maybe an alligator got hold of the T virus. I can understand that. I mean, I guess a house snake could have got hold of the T virus. Whatever. I'm trying to make logic out of these giant animals.
It's just like the Robert Forster classic Alligator. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah, I liked it. Okay, alligator. Wait, I'm thinking of a different movie. Never mind. I'm thinking of Karl.
Oh, yeah, no, Alligator's from like the 80s, and like,
No, I don't think I've ever seen alligator.
oh, okay, that's a good creature movie. Robert Forster from Jackie Brown's the main guy in it. There's there's a couple shots where it's like a giant killer alligator. There's a couple shots where they use an actual alligator, and it's just a regular alligator on like a tiny set, and you can tell, but it's like I love the effort.
That's awesome.
Anyways, now that we're talking about the movie Alligator, I think it's time to move on to the main movie we're supposed to talk about. So after the Paul W. Sanderson movies did pretty well, they came to an end, and then Constantine Films was like, we still have the license, we want money for this, so let's make new ones. And originally, let's see if I can find my notes. Apologies.
I know when I heard the licensing for Resident Evil were back up to grabs, and that a company bought it, and I can't remember the exact like wording and everything, but I remember hearing something that the company that bought it wanted to make the new reboot movie more like the game, and I was so excited, and I could not wait. And then it came out.
Yeah. Which it's funny. I think the thing was they realized that the rights were about to lapse. And they're like, oh shit. Knowing that these are the people that are involved in the Fantastic Four movies, that makes perfect sense. That just seems to be their MO. Oh no, we're losing this. Quick, make a movie.
Right.
That brings us to Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City. The movie was originally going to be written by a guy named Greg Russo, who he would go on to write the 2021 Mortal Kombat movie, which movie I'm a bit mixed on. Also has its issues with video game accuracy.
Yeah, it has issues, but it was a fun movie.
They, for some reason, decided to make up a new character that was really boring.
And give his superpower a cool shirt. The whole movie's like, what's my superpower? He finally finds it. Oh, I get a shirt. Cool.
And if you pay attention in some shots, it buckles because it's made out of rubber. And so he wanted to write an adaptation of Resident Evil 7, or as it's actually called, Resident Evil Biohazard. Or as it's called in Japan, Biohazard Resident Evil.
Isn't it just called Biohazard 7 over there?
No, it's called Biohazard. They swapped the titles. It's Biohazard Resident Evil.
Oh, that's funny. And over here, it's Resident Evil Biohazard.
Yeah. And then they put the 7 inside the title. They did the same thing with Village, where like it's Resident Evil Village, and then it had the 8 is lit up in the title. And I think it's funny about this guy. I was like looking up his backstory. His backstory. I was reading the lore on Greg Russo. I was looking up movies that he made. The Mortal Kombat movie is the only movie he's like the only like mainstream release thing that he's written or that's been made that he wrote. But this guy is like currently he's gonna write the sequel to the Netflix Death Note
Oh, wow.
and like 7 other video game adaptations. And it's like, who is this guy related to that he's getting all these fucking movies? But yeah, he was writing the script on 7, which like 7 had just come out, and the production company was just like, no, that's too new. We don't want you to do that. How about you write something of time travel? And so him and James Wan, who was interested, both were like, okay, yeah, we're done. So instead, they had gotten I hope I'm saying his name right. Johannes Roberts, who he directed the 47 Meters Down movies, which I haven't seen, but I've heard are pretty good shark movies.
The first one's fun.
He wrote my least favorite segment from VHS 99. Did you watch do you watch Shutter VHS movies?
Yeah, I've watched the first 2. I haven't watched the other ones. I haven't watched 99 or anything.
Okay, yeah. So 99, he had like a segment about like this girl doing like this hazing ritual, and she gets buried in like a coffin. But oh no, it rains, so she drowns, and then she comes back as a zombie, and she puts the people in the coffin, and then they die. It's like it's like my least favorite. I think VHS 99 is like a pretty good entry. So like
Yeah,
that's like my least favorite ones. It's not bad. And then he directed The Strangers Pray at Night, which was the first sequel to the Strangers movies.
I like that
Before,
movie.
yeah, I think it's fun. It kind of reminds me of like The Strangers. Very much feels like a 70s movie, and then Pray at
Uh,
Night feels like an 80s movie.
it does. I thought the same thing. And then Prey or Strangers Chapter 1 just feels like a shitty movie.
Yeah, they got Rennie Harlan to make 3 Strangers movies, and then the first one came out and nobody liked it. It's like,
And I love the first 2. Like
yeah.
first one's my favorite, obviously, but the second one's good too. I was so excited for Chapter 1, and then I watched it, and I'm like, this is fucking boring.
And then so Johannes Roberts, competent director, uh, and apparently a huge fan of the games. This guy was like really pushing it, like really pushing like he also wrote the scripts. He's really pushing his scripts to like have as many stuff from the games as possible. Although there's one big thing that I thought was a dumb idea where he we'll kind of get into it a little bit more, where he wanted to combine 1 and 2 so he can have more set pieces from each story.
Stupid.
And then Constantine Films seemed to just be kind of fucking with his script, and then they cut his budget in half. This was originally going to be a $40 million movie, and then they cut it to a $25 million movie. So not half, almost half. Which a lot of movies have overblown budgets, but like going from 40 million to 25 million, that's a big difference. That is like a lot of shit you have to get rid of.
Yeah. And a lot of my gripes in the movie, like I didn't know that until you told me that earlier today. And a lot of my gripes in the movie that actually made sense. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's why this looks like shit.
Yeah. That's why it's like the only monsters in this are zombies and a liquor, just like the first movie again.
The zombies look fucking terrible. Like the
Yeah.
makeup on them looks so bad.
Oh yeah, that's one of my notes.
Like one of the zombies literally looks like a clown.
Yeah. And they all look the same too, which like the first Resident Evil game, they have like all white zombies, but they're like those are the strong ones. You don't fuck with until like you have like a shotgun.
Right.
But this one, they're just all these bold white zombies.
I remember one of them has like a white face. Like he literally has like white face paint on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why?
As much as I love this movie, it's like Dawn of the Dead, where like all the zombies are just blue.
Yeah. But that movie was like in the fucking like 70s. So
Yeah. And that also had a low budget.
I'm about to say, and that was a low budget movie for that time. So you
Yeah.
know, it's kind of understandable, but
They would have been happy to have $25 million.
I feel like you could have done cheap zombies that looked better.
Um, Imagine if Savini had like 25 million in the 70s.
Right. Like, they should have got Tom Savini on this and he would have nailed it.
And another big issue for this movie for me is I just feel like this movie is like really miscast.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Not necessarily miscast, like, the cast could have done a good job, but it's just the characters are written so horribly.
Yeah, like obviously,
It's
like
al
in the PlayStation. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, it's almost like the people that made it knew the characters' names, but they had no idea what their, like, mannerisms, their attitudes, or anything were.
Hello, everybody. Steven from the future here. And I thought it was funny that me and Michael never once said who the actors in the cast were. So I kind of wanted to run me that really quick. So we got Kea Sodalario as Claire Redfield. We have Hannah John Kamen, who plays Jill Valentine. As we said in the video, plays Ghost in Ant-Man 2 and Thunderbolts. She's in a really good episode of Black Mirror, Wyatt Russell. Oh, hey, that's funny. They're both in Thunderbolts. We got Robbie Amell as Chris Redfield, who I think was a good choice, but just not the best script. And we got Tom Hooper as Albert Wesker, Vaughn Jugia as Leon S. Kennedy, and Donald Logue as Chief Irons, who we never once mentioned, even though I think he did pretty decent in the movie. And then, of course, we have Neil McDonough as William Birkin. Once again, excellent choice, but not the best script to work with. Anyways, back to the video. They're almost like the opposite of what they are in the games. Like in the games, like even though like in the second game, Leon is like literally it's his first day to be a cop,
Right.
but like he's like incredibly competent. That's like kind of like a recurring trait of Leon is he like other than like him having the sarcastic dry humor is he's very competent at everything he does. He's able to always figure out like a situation to get out of harm. The Leon in this couldn't even I feel like he couldn't even do someone's coffee order.
No, he's just a bumbling idiot in this movie. And he don't even have, like, the like, funny, like, one-liners or anything. He's an idiot.
Yeah. And then like Claire's probably the closest because in the games Claire can be like a kind of like a snarky jerk, especially to like, you know, bad guys obviously. But she also has like this like incredible nice side to the point that like she can like get a little girl to trust her. And
Right.
like that's always like Claire's strength is like she's not like afraid to back down from anybody, but like there's like sweetness to her.
There is literally zero sweetness to the movie version of her.
Yeah, she's just an asshole to everybody.
Just a fucking bitch.
Yeah. And then I actually laughed out loud in Chris's first scene. Chris being like a corporate shill for Umbrella was hilarious to me.
Yeah, no, that makes no sense.
Not just because, like, in the games, like, Chris has basically made it his mission to destroy everything that Umbrella created.
Yeah, and this he's like, "Oh, this guy's like a father to me."
Yeah. And then, like, is barely a character.
Right. Jill, one of the, like, the biggest characters in the game, is like, barely has any character development whatsoever.
It's kind of the point to where it's like, why is she in this movie? Like, you could have
Exactly.
probably wrote her out and then
And they have a really fucking good actress playing her.
it's the actor, it's Hannah John Kamen, who played Ghost in the Thunderbolts and Ant-Man and Wasp.
Yeah, and then Wesker, Jesus, like, he's probably the, like, most like, different from the video game.
Because like his allegiances are literally switched. So we're definitely getting into spoilers here because it's like really I don't even recommend watching this movie unless you're like a big Resident Evil fan and you have to watch everything that they do.
I will say this, like, watching this movie now, like, this is, I think, my third time watching it. I watched it yesterday to prepare for this. And if you're like a big Resident Evil fan, there are things to like in this movie, but there's also a lot of problems. But I don't know, it's kind of like a guilty pleasure for me, I guess. Like, just kind of like
Yeah.
the Paul Anderson movies are the same way. Like, I can admit they're horrible pieces of shit, but I still, enjoy them from time to time.
Yeah. One thing I can give this movie a lot of credit for is the director wanted to go for a John Carpenter feel, and while it's like obviously it's very hard. One, it's very hard to make a movie as good as the movies that John Carpenter made. It's probably one of my favorite directors of all time. Um, but two, when you like when you kind of have the restraints of like a small budget, it used to be back in the days that like people can make it work. But nowadays it feels like if you have a shit budget, you're kind of just screwed over by everything. So I
Right.
get the vibe he was going for, and I thought he did a pretty decent job. The Roberts, I thought he did a pretty decent job at least like having the feel of like a John Carpenter movie.
The thing is, it kind of came and went, which kind of bugged me. I noticed it watching it this time. Like there's a shot toward the beginning when Claire is in the 18 wheeler and they hit the woman and they get out and the guy's already gotten back in the car and Claire's sitting there looking out into the woods next to the road. And there's this really cool shot that's very like John Carpenter The Thing esque, where like you're kind of looking for a POV of somebody in the woods looking out at Claire, and it feels like a 70s horror movie, and it's really cool. And they do it again like toward the end of the movie. There's another similar shot that feels that way, but that's like the only like there's like two or three shots like that,
Mhm.
but it's not consistent. Like if that would have been a consistent style in the movie, it would have been a lot better. But those are the only shots that really stand out. The rest of the movie is kind of shot boring. Like there's nothing really interesting to see.
Yeah, and then we were talking about the zombie designs are so bad, and then like when we actually get like other Resident Evil creatures, like the liquor looks like shit.
Yeah, no, speaking of the liquor, like we talked about, like how we got a liquor again was like the only thing in the original Resident Evil movie. When you see the claw come out and they're in the police station, you're like, "Oh shit, it's gonna be a hunter." I think they're in the police station,
Yeah.
but at first, no, it's a tongue that comes out. But like at first, when they start hearing the thing, I'm like, give us a hunter. Like we've never seen a hunter in a fucking movie, and then it's another liquor, and I'm like, really again? And
Yeah.
this one looks worse than the movie that came out like years and years and years ago.
Yeah. I had just watched Final Chapter before watching this. The CGI in Final Chapter is better than the CGI in this.
The CGI is terrible in this. One scene that really stands out is it's one of like Leon's first scenes where he's in the police station and you get this like wide shot of and it's supposed to be like, oh wow, it's set up just like the game because you see the big like staircase and the second floor balcony and that big ass statue behind him, but it looks so shitty. It looks literally like they just got a screen grab from the game
Yeah.
and stuck it in the movie behind the actor.
I do want to, since we're complaining about the CGI, I do want to say that the production design is great. Like the actual practical stuff in this movie, I think it's really weird that like maybe this had to do with the budget getting cut, but the fact that Raccoon City went from like Raccoon City in the games is supposed to be like the size of like Louisville or like Knoxville, which if you're not American, you probably don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But it's supposed to be like it's not a huge like sprawling like metropolis like LA or New York, but like it's still like a relatively big sized city. And they put this in like a small dying town.
Yeah, that confused me because, like you just said, Raccoon City is like a decent city, like a decent sized city. Even in the games, like in the beginning of two and all of three, you're running around this fairly massive city. But the movie, it portrays it as like this podunk, like side of the highway, interstate, like little town that's just dying and everybody's leaving. And I'm like, what? There's like not even like any like big buildings or anything. Like,
Almost like this was like a coal town, and then Umbrella was like, "Hey, we'll build a lab in that cavern." So like some of the things like kind of like stick out. Like it's like why is there this big fucking police station in a small town? Why
right.
does this police station have like an elite police force? Because SARS are supposed to be like they're like SWAT, but like investigate. It's really weird. You can tell like not Americans wrote the Resident Evil games because like they I guess they wanted to use SWAT, but they're like no, let's make it like more fantastical. So like they
Right.
have like this elite investigation force of like former soldiers and stuff.
Yeah. And like I live in an area where there's a lot of small cities that are like that Raccoon City is portrayed in this movie. And the police force is literally just like a bunch of like Barney Fife motherfuckers. Like it is not like special task force hard ass that's gonna give the rookie a hard time, you know. It's like
Yeah.
that don't exist in small towns like that. And there's
Yeah.
like huge ass police station that's bigger than the entire town.
But yeah, I think like the at least like the main hall of the police station looks like the games. And there's like a couple other like really cool sets. yeah, it's just sadly it's just limited by the budget of like the amount of locations you can go to. Oh, sorry, duh, and the mansion. Like the hallway of the mansion looks great, and it's like we're only there for like 30 seconds.
And see, I was annoyed by that because you finally get to the mansion, and to me, it looked more like the mansion from the first movie than it does the video game.
Oh yeah. I think I was just happy to see a mansion that it's like,
Yeah.
I was like, yay, mansion.
But since you're talking about that, I think the idea of combining the first and second games were terrible, especially with the budget cut. Like right when the budget got cut, they should have just cut it down to either focusing on. I wish they would have done the first game, just do a movie about the first game. But I don't know. Like I didn't like that it went back and forth because it limited it. Like it made it to where you didn't feel like you were getting enough of either game.
It was such a weird decision because it's like you could have just done like the first movie, and then when people got excited from that, you were like, okay, well now we'll do the second movie
Right.
with a bigger budget. You
And
could
the
have
first
even
game would have made it such a badass movie. Even like the
yeah,
way they were doing, like when Wesker plays the Moonlight Sonata, and you don't see the door open, but you hear like this like secret door open up, and if you play the game, you know what it is. Like that's awesome. But then they took the scene from 2 where the helicopter crashes in the building and put that there, which made no fucking sense.
and it's like that's not how Brad dies. Nemesis is supposed to kill him.
Exactly. Like this dude
um,
lasts 2 other games, and now all of a sudden he saves them at the end of the first game, and they're
yeah.
like, nope, he's gonna die here.
And so the Moonlight Sonata thing annoyed me too because having just played like the remakes, and I'm assuming it's the same way in the original. It like depending on which character you play, either Jill, who like just oh, it turns out she can also play the piano, does it, or Chris gets Rebecca to do it, who's like a character that's not even in this movie, and she's out of practice, so you need to like go run and do other things and then come back, and then like she's like, oh yeah, I got it, cool. But it's just Wesker. He just sits there and he just looks at like the notes and he's like, "Oh yeah,
Well, because his Palm Pilot told him what to do.
yeah." That's another thing too. If like Wesker being like that. So in the games, like Wesker is like he's an umbrella scientist posing as a policeman, but in this one, he's just like a normal policeman. Who's like getting notes from like a rival company to like stop Umbrella,
Yeah,
which gets revealed a bit more in like a really dumb stinger at the end.
and he's almost like an anti-hero in this movie.
Yeah. And it's like Wesker's like a ruthless, like uncaring person. So like they basically made him as like they made him like this conflicted bad guy, and it's like I guess that could be more interesting, but it's like it's you already have a character like that in Barry, who's not in the
Yeah,
movie.
who's not in the movie.
That's like Barry's entire thing is like he's like Jill's friend, and then like by the end of the game, you're like, oh, he's working for Umbrella, but they're threatening his family, so it's like of course he's gonna make the decision, and then he makes the right if he lives, he ends up making the right decision. You can kill him technically in those games, um, or Lisa Trevor can, which brings up the next thing. Why was Lisa Trevor in this movie?
It made no sense for her to be in this movie. They didn't give her the correct backstory that where it made sense for her hands to be bound together and for the bag to be over her head.
Yeah,
Like
um,
it made no sense. In the game, it made sense why she looked like that. In this
yeah,
movie, they gave her no backstory to make that make sense, and it's all she's like deranged because she has mommy issues in the
mhm,
game. So she just walks around going, "Mother." This one, she just wants a fucking friend, and she's just
yeah,
like, "Friend," and I'm like, "Great." She's Chunk from the Goonies. Like what?
yeah. The game, she was like this character that was like it was literally like this guy made the mansion. And then they captured him and his family, and they're like, let's just inject him with shit, see what happens. And so it turned her into a monster that's like unkillable. They don't even give her any backstory in this one.
No,
And it's
horrible.
like, I guess because that's like a normal that could be played by a normal person, they kept her in the movie because they didn't have to deal with like CGI or anything. But like, it's just there's so many like weird choices that kind of keep this movie from being good.
Right. And there's another scene. Speaking of Lisa Trevor not making any sense in this movie, there's a scene where I think they're in the police station, or it may have been the mansion. I don't remember. They jumped around so much, but they find like a video, and they play it, and it's the video of the twins, the Ashford twins from Resident Evil Code Veronica,
Mhm.
picking the like wings off of the dragonfly, which makes sense in that game because you have backstory of these characters. In this movie, it makes no fucking sense. The only connection it has is the Birkin is like in the background, which also don't make sense to be in that video.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what the fuck? And like production value went into that, like making that video. They could have saved
Yeah.
a lot of money and not made that video.
Almost like I don't know, like, how much exact it is, but it very much looks like the video from Code Veronica, so it's
It
like,
does. It's
there was
almost
care put
exact.
into that. Maybe the idea was, "Oh, we'll do Code Veronica next," and so
I
they
don't
wanted
know.
to set it up, but it's like, I don't know. Um, I think that's just the recurring issue with the movie is there was clearly a lot of care put into this for the fans, but just, like, every creative decision was just, like it felt like they just, like, read, like, synopsises and like, "Oh, we got this."
Right. And like the fan service that was there, it was like it cringy in a way. Like in the first game, you find like a document that's written by this guy who's slowly turning into a zombie. And at the very end of the document, all he can say is itchy, tasty, because his brain is gone and he's like just a monster now.
Yeah.
So in this movie, like the first zombie we see, I think technically, is like writing in blood on the windshield or the window of Claire or Chris's house. Itchy, tasty. That's cool. Okay, we get it. That's cool. That's a nice little throwback. They should have just left it at that. But no, no. When the zombie attacks Claire, the zombie is yelling verbally, "Itchy, tasty," which makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
One, why is the zombie talking? Two, why is it just yelling itchy tasty? Like they should have just left it at it drawing it in blood. Like that was cool.
Yeah.
And another line that was really cringy was when they're all in the diner and it's like your first introduction to Jill and Wesker and Leon eventually. And Jill grabs Wesker's like sandwich and she's like, snooze you lose, it's a Jill sandwich now.
Oh my
And
god.
like we get why that line's in there, but that line was so cringy at that moment, saying it that way. It was just so bad.
I'm just imagining someone that hasn't played the game, they're just like, "What? What the fuck's what?"
Why the fuck did she say that? That was stupid.
Yeah, the some little small references I got right, to the point I don't even know if it was intentional. One of the STARS guys is Richard, who in the game, he's bitten by the snake that we keep bringing up, but in the remake, you can get, like, an upgraded shotgun from him if you help him. It's like a cool little side quest thing, and in the movie, he has a shotgun. So it's like, "Hey, that was probably unintentional, but I just played the remake, so that was in my head." Um, Another thing is, like, Leon wakes up, like, kinda hungover, like, there's, like he's, like, in a motel somewhere, and, like, he has, like, a couple, like, bottle of, like, whiskey on his, like, nightstand, and, I don't know if you know this, but the reason why how Leon went to Raccoon City and didn't notice the zombie invasion was happening was because he was hungover. So apparently the night before Leon goes to Raccoon City, he like had an argument with his girlfriend and he broke up with her. So he just went to like a liquor store and just bought a bunch of whiskey and then just fucking like binged it. And then like he woke up at like 5 p.m. He's like, "Oh shit, I gotta go to work." I just drove to Raccoon City.
Oh yeah,
And
it's my
then
first day on the job in this new city.
yeah. And it's like, "Oh, that looks like a military blockade." Eh.
It's fine. I'm sure everything's fine.
Yeah. Um,
Leon is just it pisses me off in this movie. He's
yeah.
just such an idiot. Like he's I don't know. It's almost like he's just the joke character, but nothing he does is funny.
Yeah. And then like Claire treats him like such like an idiot, and it's like for fans of the games, like that's like such the opposite of their relationship. In the remake, which I feel like this game like takes a lot of cues from, this movie takes a lot of cues from. Leon is dressed in like plain clothes, and then like at some point he like gets into like a little armory, and then like he puts on his uniform. It's like a very cool scene. But in this movie, like Claire literally has to hand him a vest to put on. Like, hey, put this on. It's not gonna stop bites, but put this on.
Right.
And then she
And
takes the shotgun from him.
and they have the scene where like he goes down in the police station, and the dude's like, which is not the same guy from the game, but there's like a
Mhm.
guy in a jail cell. But this guy, unlike the game, this guy like Leon's so just incompetent. He allows his gun to get swiped from a guy in a jail cell.
Yeah.
How hard that is, I don't know. But then if that's not bad enough, when the guy takes his gun from him and turns it around and points it at Leon, his response is, "Hey, that's my gun."
Yeah, I saw
I'm like, "What?
I
No
I
shit."
forgot I forgot about that line, so when I heard that last night, I was, like, laughing my ass off. I was like, "What?"
I was like, I almost wanted the guy to be like, "Oh shit, it is. I'm sorry," and just hands it back to him.
Which, to kinda set up how the game ends, or sorry, I keep thinking about the game, sorry. To set up how the movie ends, Birkin eventually gets back to his lab. Wesker's gonna wants to take I don't even know if they call it the G virus, but
The T virus, I think.
well, no, Birkin made the G virus.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
true. Do they call it
I
the
don't
T
even
virus?
I don't even know if they call it the G virus in this game. It might just be another version of the T virus. Might just be the T virus for all I know.
I
But
think they call it the T virus because I didn't even notice that.
yeah. But like Wesker shoots him and he feels bad about it because this is nice Wesker. Um
This is nice.
this is reluctant does it for the money Wesker instead of the games where Wesker was raised by Umbrella and then he became a cool scientist and then later on he became a I want to make everybody zombies terrorist. Um and so Wesker shoots him and then Birkin injects himself with the virus, G or T, whatever it is, and then he becomes the monster he is in the Jesus Christ, brain fart. He becomes the monster, which I think the monster is called G. Very creative name, Capcom.
Right,
Um, and if you're familiar with the movie or the games, you may have noticed that we have not brought up his wife or daughter. That's because the movie barely brings him up.
right. Especially his wife. Like Sherry's kind of like a little bit there, but his wife is literally just there to just die.
Yeah. And like his wife is like a major character in the game. She plays this like obviously she's evil, but she very much cares for her daughter. And that's kind of like her one redeeming quality. So when she dies, like you feel you're able to feel some sympathy for her. But in this movie,
Yeah,
it's she's just an extra character that gets shot.
literally. And there's no. It bugged me because like when the alarm goes off in Raccoon City, because they're like, it's this city's going to be destroyed at 6 a.m. Like, get the fuck out if you're not already. Birkin slowly goes up to his like wife and daughter and goes, "Hey, we got to get out now. Get her dressed, get the stuff together, and let's go." With no urgency whatsoever in his voice or in his action. He's just very solemn about it. And then when he has his family, he created this. He works for Umbrella. He knows how dangerous. With his family in the car with him, he's like, "We're just gonna go to my lab. Okay, I'm gonna save my life's work." I'm like, you do know how dangerous this is, right? Like, you could have done this mission on your own and
Yeah.
not put your family in
His
jeopardy.
wife could have got because like at least in the games, his wife had like a stake in it too, in like the
Right.
creation of the virus. But this one, I don't even think she's a scientist. I think she's just like a
No.
normal housewife.
She's just like, "What the fuck are we doing? Why are we here?" And he's just like, "Oh, I gotta save my life's work."
Yeah, it's like, yeah, have your wife and daughter like get out of the fucking city. You go get the goddamn thing,
Right.
uh, and then hope that like Hunk doesn't shoot you down.
That's another fucking thing. It shows Honk, and you're like, "Hell yeah, he's gonna be in this. This is gonna be awesome." And it never shows him again.
Yeah,
It just shows him like gearing up to kick ass, and then you never see him again.
yeah. So he becomes G, and he starts chasing the main characters. He wants to really kill Chris because as we're told through dialogue, he's like a father to Chris. We don't really see that at any point in the movie, but we're told it, so we have to believe it. Um, and then he gets shot, and then you think they're all gonna get on the train just like the game and get out of here. But then he shows up again, not in the form that he shows up in the games, but like his third form. They skipped a form and then didn't do the final form. Um,
They didn't have the budget for the final form because that
yeah,
final form is insane in the game.
yeah. Um, but it's okay because one, Jill disappears from the movie for like 20 minutes and then they pick her, then she just shows up. She's like, "Oh, what the hell? You guys have a train?" Um, and then while Birkin is here on the train, Leon just apparently just found a shotgun. He found a rocket launcher. There's just a rocket launcher on this train for no reason. Um,
In first class.
yeah, and he shoots them. And what does he say? "See you later, fucker."
I don't even remember. I was just like, that's like the one cool scene Leon has is he's because every Resident Evil game, without fail, when you're fighting the final boss, somebody somewhere is going to give you a rocket.
Yeah. Um,
I think the first game it literally just falls from the heavens
yeah, it's Brad, but Brad couldn't give him the rocket launcher because he's dead.
because he's dead. Yeah,
Uh, and then Ada gave Leon the rocket launcher, but she can't because she's not in this movie yet.
she is in the after credit scene.
Yeah, which I was referencing that earlier. So this is one of the things I wanted to bring up where it's like they didn't like they make all these references, but they didn't use like a lot of the game's like dialogues. When Leon kills, well, he shoots Mr. X, not Birkin when he says this. But when he shoots Mr. X with a rocket launcher, he says, "Game over."
Yeah,
It's like one of my favorite one-liners in the game because, you know, it's kind of meta. Um, so just him being like, "Hey, see you later, fucker." I was like, all you had to have him say was "game over."
right. It was very easy. You had one job.
So yeah, they destroy Birkin. They get out of the town before it gets nuked, and all the heroes live, including Sherry, who I don't even think talks to Claire at any point in the movie. Um,
That's a good point.
yeah, they all just walk down the highway. And then we get another scene of apparently Wesker's still alive. He wasn't blown up. And apparently he was injected with the T virus or something. And now he has Riddick's powers, where the sun hurts his eyes, or light
I know
hurts his
about the
eyes.
fluorescent lights hurts his eyes.
Yeah.
My
Um,
eyes, I can't open them. She's like, it's okay. Here's some sunglasses.
yeah. And then he puts sunglasses on. And there's this funny phenomenon with like various fandoms where it's like, oh, this character has to earn this very specific thing. Did you watch the Uncharted movie?
No.
Okay. Did you play the games?
Yeah, I played the games.
Okay, the movie's not very good.
That's what I've heard.
The only time I was like, "Oh my god, it's like the games," was when Spider-Man was crawling up walls, and it's like, well, that's probably a Spider-Man reference, not a Uncharted reference. But just him climbing, it was like, "Oh my god, it's like the games. He's climbing stuff."
I thought, um, he was a horrible. I like, fuck, what's his name? Tom Holland. I like Tom Holland. He's a good actor. I thought he was a horrible choice for Nathan Drake.
Oh yeah, and then in the movie, he's not that good either.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a part. So another big sticking point I have is when video game movies don't play the music from the games, especially the main theme. So the main theme play, other than the end credits, the main theme plays twice in Uncharted. Once when Tom Holland bumps into the voice actor of Nathan Drake, Nolan North. He meets him on a beach and he's like, "Yeah, I fell off a plane." And he's like, "Yeah, that happened to me before." And it's like, dun, 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 dun. That's not the theme, but I can remember it. But there's a part where he puts on like a gun holster, like a shoulder strap gun holster, and the theme starts playing as if the movie's like, yeah, now he's Nathan Drake. And it's like, I mean, I guess it's like part of his costume, but I wouldn't say like that's like so important that like that's the character now.
Right.
It would be like if like it would be like if they made a Resident Evil movie and like Jill the whole movie doesn't have her shoulder straps and then she puts them on and then it plays like it plays like the Resident Evil theme when she puts on her like shoulder pads. It's like, yeah, I'm Jill Valentine
He's
now.
Jill now.
Yeah. So like it kind of like there's kind of this joke where like, oh, this character had to earn that thing. So Wesker had to earn his sunglasses.
Yeah.
It could have just been he likes wearing sunglasses. He has to have a reason to have sunglasses.
I always thought it was funny in the game. You see that you find like the document with the picture in it that like shows that Wesker was one of the Umbrella scientists,
Yeah.
and he has like the lab coat on, but even in the picture, he has like the sunglasses.
Yeah.
So, like apparently Wesker just at all times, no matter what, wears sunglasses.
Which I wonder if that's why they gave him sunglasses. So it's like, oh, people aren't going to recognize it's him. We need to give him something. They're like, just have him wear
Somebody somewhere in
sunglasses.
the theater watching that movie was like, "Oh shit, it's Wesker."
The woman who gives him the sunglasses is Ada Wong. And even though the only people that will get hype from that name obviously know it's Ada Wong the minute they see she's Asian,
Yeah,
they drag it out for so long.
and she has to say her name like James Bond. He's like, "I
Yeah.
never got your name." She's like, "My name's Ada, Ada Wong."
It's funny too. She has the coat, but she doesn't even have the right hair. It's like they
No,
couldn't
she
put like a short hair wig on her or something. They ran out of money, I guess. Um,
I think this movie just whoever's behind it had characters' names but nothing else. Because
yeah,
like whenever Claire breaks into Chris's house, Chris is like, "You and those lockpicks, like you and the like unlocking or whatever." He don't call her the master, but he references a couple of times, like 2 or 3 times. They reference Claire's really good at unlocking shit, and I'm like, okay. And all Jill has is she's a really good marksman,
yeah.
and I'm like, what? Like,
And Leon's a rookie,
yeah, and Leon's a rookie.
and Chris is the good guy.
I'm like, Jill was the master of unlocking. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Kind of a cool thing. It would be a cool thing if I didn't have this other opinion about her. So the woman playing Ada in this plays Ada in Resident Evil 4 remake.
Oh, does she? I didn't know that. That's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
The thing is though, I think she's pretty bad as Ada in that game. So I can't get excited. I Ada's supposed to be like the femme fatale character. She's like constantly flirting with Leon. She's
Yeah.
basically James Bond if James Bond worked for like an evil spy company. Um I guess based off what you think of the English government, maybe James Bond does work evil spy company. Um, but yeah, she generally works for the bad guys, and like all of her dialogue in Resident Evil 4 remake is like so flat and serious that like all the flirting dialogue comes off as like really bad. So I can't even get excited about her being in this movie because it's like, well, I don't really like her that much in the game. So
Yeah, that's fair.
she definitely got way too much shit though, because like it like normal people are like, hey, I don't like this character and I don't like her voice. That's it. But people were like harassing her over it, and it's like she didn't write the fucking game, guys. She was trying to do a job.
That's horrible.
Yeah. Us at the Balance of Cinema podcast, we have one thing to say to all fans: leave actors alone. Unless it's like Andy Dick and he's like trying to touch you, then maybe like I don't know, like you can be mean to Andy Dick, but like other than that though, like leave actors alone. Overall, like we have all these nerd complaints, but like even past that, it's just a whatever like zombie movie. There's like not even really a second act to it. There's like an end of a first act, and then they're immediately in like the last location fighting the main bad guy.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of scenes like I don't know. You were talking about the practical, like fuck, I can't remember now. There's something you said earlier, and I was gonna,
Production design,
huh?
the production design.
Yeah, production design. I like there's a couple. They're not necessarily from the game, but I like that there's a couple of like little bits that kind of like okay, yeah. If Raccoon City was a place, that could be like something like. At one point, I think Chris or somebody has like a old football jersey, and it's like the raccoon, and it's like it has a raccoon mascot. I thought that was kind of cool. And there's a lot of like, there's so much like umbrella propaganda like everywhere
Mm-hmm.
that I thought was kind of cool.
Unfortunately, yeah, this just like as a movie, like it has the opposite issue of the first Anderson one, where it's like it's it's not a good Resident Evil movie, but like as like a zombie sci-fi movie, it's all right. Well, this one, it's like slightly better at being a Resident Evil movie, but it's just not that great of a movie, at least in my opinion.
No, I agree. Yeah, it's the opposite effect, like you just said. Like the other movie, like as a just like you said, as a zombie sci-fi movie, that's not a Resident Evil movie. Like if it didn't have the title Resident Evil, it would still be a pretty cool movie. But this one, as where it's got all the Resident Evil things, it just sucks as a movie.
And then one more complaint I can think of, which kind of ties it back to the George Romero one. The gore in these like movies like isn't that great. And like I'm a weirdo. I love gore in horror movies. I like just the practical effects of people getting their throats ripped out or like
Oh yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And like even like the Anderson movies didn't have great gore and this one didn't have great gore. And like apparently the Romero movie was so bad that it was the studio was afraid of it getting an NC-17 and it's like for whatever fault the Romero movie probably would have had, I would have just loved to see zombies rip people apart.
I mean, it depends on the movie like whether gore is needed. I feel like for a zombie movie, gore is absolutely needed.
Yeah, definitely. Even Night of the Living Dead is like more gorier than like the Resident Evil movies in a lot of parts.
Yeah, And this one just had rolling zombies. Like that's the main gore this one had is the zombies. Like multiple times when it would show zombies, it'd be like drooling from the mouth,
Yeah.
like drooling blood or whatever. Which I mean, I don't know. I feel like that wasn't needed. They could have spent that money elsewhere.
So there is another Resident Evil movie planned, and it's going to be directed by Zach Kreger, who is from the Whitest Kids You Know. He directed a movie that we're all familiar with, Miss March.
Miss Mart.
Yeah, it was a sex comedy from 2008, I think, and it
Oh, that
bombed.
was it. Oh well,
Um,
that's maybe why.
oh, also he made Barbarian.
I love Barbarian.
Yeah, which Barbarian I thought was that was a great surprise, and like it's like everything about like the acting's great, the practical effects are great, it's well directed. It's well shot too. There's like a couple shots in that movie that like really like left me like just fucking staring at the screen as hard as I can.
That movie was yeah. That movie's amazing. I have very few complaints about Barbarian.
And he has another movie coming out called Weapons that looks very interesting with Josh
Yes, I can't wait to
Brolin
see that.
that has like really creepy ass marketing. Um, And so he might be a good choice for a new Resident Evil game. But even now, it's like, oh, it's going to be about like one character. And it's like, well, okay, are they just going to do three? Or are they just going to make up their own thing again?
But I say, at this point, are they going to try to reboot it again, or is it going to be a sequel to this one?
No, they're going to try to reboot it. This
Okay,
didn't do
good.
well.
Oddly enough, the Rotten Tomato score for this movie isn't that bad. It's got like a
Yeah.
30. Not that I give much stock in Rotten Tomato. I make my own
Yeah.
opinions, but that's like the go-to thing. And Rotten Tomato, I think this at 33% or something like that. So it's not horrible. Like there's way worse. So I feel
Yeah.
like people that maybe aren't diehard fans, like think this movie's okay. I guess.
Looking at the box office, it was 25 million and then 42 million box office. So like probably just broke even.
Yeah.
But they probably wanted a hit. So of course they're gonna try it again and maybe not follow up on this. So I'm cautiously optimistic about it. They got a good director, so but then again, Mortal Kombat and Event Horizon were great. So and then we saw what Anderson did. So I don't know. I don't even know if you get a good director if that necessarily means it's going to be a good adaptation. But this has been episode 3 of Balance of Cinema. We didn't have a preview for next movie, and I still don't know how to end these things. That's the running joke. And then one day I'm gonna get sick of it, and I'm just gonna have an ending. I'm Steven. You can follow me at MovieBuff3000 Reviews. And Michael, do you have anything you'd like to plug?
Blah, blah, blah. You can follow me at MovieBuff1084 or Off the Real Productions.
And remember, if you come across a good movie or a bad movie, it shouldn't matter. What you should care about is whether you enjoyed it or not. And if anything, that's what this podcast is about our enjoyment and love of making movies. Even something like this, I appreciate there's a lot of things I appreciate in this, and hey, people had fun making it. So